Call to order how's everybody this morning?
Great.
I'd like to call to order the administrative committee meeting for December 13th, 2019. First item would be any board member concerns. Do I have any from my colleagues?
None here.
Hearing none, we move on to any travel that we have. Mr. Nashik, do we have any travel we'd like to report?
So yes, Dr. Burke, as we had discussed, we will be sending Dr. Sarah Reese and Dr. Shen to China to further advance the primary concept for ultimately a meeting in hopefully June, July for a signing ceremony.
Okay. Are there any questions on the board agenda by anybody in the room there in CCA? Hearing none, there's none here at the Lux. I know we have board assistants to approve this morning.
Yes, that is for Board Member Mitchell. She wants to bring on Fred Manassian, who was formerly with the district, worked in TAO for over 20 some years, and will be her primarily technical consultant. And we need a motion.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Is that Cacciotti's voice I hear?
Yeah.
I'm over here with
Can't
Chad
see-
at Caltrans. At least they took me out of the basement, so I'm okay now.
But we lost video.
Yeah, but we lost video, man. They blacked
I'm
you
trying
out.
to get it with Caltrans in Sacramento, so we got some good people working on it here.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear from you. Okay, we have a motion to the second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit?
Aye.
Councilmember Caccioli?
Thank you. Yes.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, Ron, you're up to bat.
Good morning, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. Ron Moskowitz, Chief Information Officer. Information management is having a stellar month. 2 weeks ago, we went live with VW mitigation website, the grant management system that allows the public to apply to replace or repower older heavy-duty vehicles, engines, and equipment with lower emissions and other clean technologies. Yesterday, we went live with FENS, our new flare event notification system. Refineries now have to report through our FENS system as of midnight this morning. The new system now captures data and can identify specific equipment that is causing the flare. FENS also automatically updates the compliance system and notifies inspectors. The public can now use our new interface of Flare Map on our FENS website and click on each refinery to see current and historical flare notifications. We designed FENS to be both user and mobile friendly. Today, we are going live with Rule 222, which allows the public to submit and obtain registrations for char boilers, small boilers, and negative air machines. By January 1st, we'll be going live with AER annual emissions reporting, which now allows the AB 617 enhancements. We've added electronic sign, submit, and pay, which eliminates quite a bit of paperwork. Earlier this month, we completed the deployment of Office 365 in the cloud and have trained all staff. Finally, after researching a number of vendors, we are in the process of procuring 1.6 million emails for our outreach efforts. I could not be more proud of my team for their hard work and dedication, and I'm also very thankful for the strength and partnerships between information management and each division. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ron?
Keep up the great work.
Hearing none, hey.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, from the basement.
Yes.
My question is regarding the VW environmental mitigation program. I saw the description of developing a web application. I'm curious, where are I've gone down to completed actions. It looks like they're in phase 1 beta testing. with all that $500 million in VW trust money, how's that coming along? Just curious, because as I go out to the cities and people ask questions about applications, how is that? Will that be up and running very soon?
Mayor, we actually went live 2 weeks ago. If you go to our website and you'll click on the fourth bullet, which says VW mitigation, it'll take you to a website, webpage, and then there you can actually click on to sign up as a new user and go through the process. So we are live, and we already have people signing up.
Good. How's the feedback? Is it good?
So far, we've gotten very positive feedback. We even from CARB, they were surprised that we were able to put such a comprehensive system up in a matter of months. So the feedback so far has been very positive.
Ron, that's good, because I went on to the San Joaquin Air Pollution Control District, and it was a little tougher to try to get into their system, but good.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item will be Sanjata.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Burke and members of the committee. Sujata Jain, Chief Financial Officer. This item is to release one RFP and one RFQ. The RFP is for legal services for employment and labor relations, and the RFQ is to establish a list of pre-qualified vendors for automotive, mechanical repairs and services. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions?
No
Okay,
questions.
move to the next item.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. This item is to revise the procurement policy for 3 items. The first is to increase the executive officer's signing authority from 75,000 to 100,000. The second is to change the terminology from fixed assets to capital assets to be more in line with the accounting pronouncements. And the third is to, in the event of an emergency or significant natural disaster, when AQMD is enacting its continuity of operations plan, the proposal is to increase the executive officer's authority to 500,000 for purchases of assets, contracts, and services that might be needed immediately. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
What's your recommendation on that, Sanjata?
That's probably okay, Dr. Burke, because in an emergency, we don't want to go through all the processes. And right now, the executive officer does not have that authority.
Okay.
And
Any other? I didn't mean to interrupt. What were you saying?
And there is a correction that we need to make on page 39 of the packet. There is item C2B. It's still saying 75,000. It needs to just be corrected to 100,000, and we'll make that change if approved.
That's not a good error.
Yeah, most ones say 700,000.
Yes, just missed balance.
Yeah, it looks like we made that change in quite a few places, just missed one of them, so that's good.
Okay. What's the dispensation of my colleagues?
I feel this is definitely appropriate, considering we want to maintain operations if there was some sort of emergency, and as long as it's only used for that type of emergency, I'm fully in support, so I'll move the item.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit?
Aye.
Councilmember Caccione?
Yes.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Declaring an emergency.
Okay, item number 9.
I'm good with that.
Yes, Dr. Burke, this item is to transfer from the general fund to the health effects research fund 20% of penalties above the $4 million that was received in fiscal year 18-19, and that amount is $639,239. Happy to answer any questions on that.
What's the pleasure of my colleagues?
Move approval.
Move approval?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Caccioli,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 3-0.
Put the same, right?
Mr. Nastri?
Thank you, Dr. Burke. So the next motion is for the transfer of monies from the Health Effects Research Fund to the Health Effects of Air Pollution Foundation. Unfortunately, there was another error in this one. The request was to move $3 million from the Health Effects Research Fund
Ken?
to fund additional research
Okay.
projects. Unfortunately, we didn't include the indirect costs, and the actual number to cover this should actually be 3.5. We have the funds within the account, and this funding would be used to continue the research performed by Dr. Black and the ongoing projects at UCLA and USC. We recommend approval with the correction.
And Mr. Chair, I do have public comment on this item from Harvey Etter.
Okay, then let's hear the public testimony before we seek the dispensation of this item.
Hello, good morning. I'm Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition and for the vast majority of people that want to see immediate total solar conversion happen, the transfer equitably and justly and as quickly as possible, etc. Anything dealing with research, there's been a bias by this entity and by the state and federal government towards natural gas, so-called renewable natural gas. There's a group study in it, near here, Riverside and whatnot. I'm concerned. We're concerned that there's been no study of natural gas as a toxic. PM, that's where the body counts are, and formaldehyde, benzene, etc. And renewable natural gas, they've totally omitted anything from the waste system, sewers, landfills, feedlots, where 70% of human antibiotics are used, that they're putting into the system drug-resistant antibiotics and antifungals. And there's a recent EPA death numbers per year in 10 was like 160,000 for the country. And for 20, it was like 260,000 to 290,000. I tried to copy it, couldn't copy it online. It's like hiding the ball. Like they haven't studied the Solar New Deal. We've been purged. So these studies need to be done. Should be maybe with ALISO, and also it is against the law to import into the state natural gas under 5,000, 52,002B of the Health and Safety Code since '81, and there needs to be a counterbalance on the positive benefits of solar externalities and reducing disease and whatnot, deaths, and so this hasn't been done. There's a lot of work that's been done out of the Sunshot program on DOE that was modeled ending this next year to make it cost effective for all applications, utility, commercial, industrial, residential, with coal and natural gas, without any benefits and without any environmental costs taken on the other side. So this is part of evaluating the Solar New Deal, which has been purged by you folks, the state and the feds, and I'll talk more about from my few minutes and what needs to be done. Public comments or maybe on something else. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Does the staff have any comments on Mr. Etter's comments?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Move approval.
Second?
Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Councilmember Caccioli,
Yes.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, item number 11.
Good morning, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. Jason Lowe, Assistant Deputy for Science Technology Advancement. These actions are to appropriate up to $62,000 from the general fund to the Science and Technology Advancement budget for this year and next year for the Community Air Toxics Monitoring Program. Also, it is to reallocate up to $160,000 within the existing STA capital outlay budget, and also to purchase air monitoring equipment. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and that equipment's for ABC 17.
Are you trying to call Kevin?
Is there any questions for Mr. Lowe?
No.
Okay, then
Move approval.
I'll accept a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit?
Aye.
Councilmember Caccioli?
Yes.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes
Dr.
3-0.
Okay, item 12, Mr. Oliveira.
Good morning, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. John Olvera, Deputy Executive Officer for Administrative and Human Resources. Item 12 is a routine item to present the annual report for the district's 457 Deferred Compensation Plan to cover the 2018-19 fiscal year. The report provides an overview of the plan assets, the participants, investment performance, and the actions taken by the plan's oversight committee. And just to highlight a couple things, for the year, the plan outperformed the benchmarks we use to measure investment performance. And when compared to the previous fiscal year, the total value of the assets and the number of participants in the plan has gone up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone other than myself have any questions? Okay, John, I want you to help me out here.
Sure.
This company that currently has the contract, isn't that a company that bought out the company that had the contract before?
Yes, Mass Mutual, I believe, bought out Hartford, who was the company that was running the plan before.
Okay, so how often do you go out for RFP on this?
Every 5 years, and I believe the next one, this contract is up at the end of next year.
And how long has this same company had this contract?
The current contract is a 5 year.
Now, what I'm saying, when I say the same company, I mean
The new company?
the company that currently has it and the company that it acquired.
I'm not sure how far back Hartford has gone with us. Mass Mutual has been part of the
If you had to guess, how far would you guess?
probably 10 or 15 years. And probably about 10 or 15 years, and there have been, my understanding is there have been RFPs every 5 years through that process, through those years.
Well, you know, I don't have the kind of money that South Coast has, but I have a few pennies, and I can't imagine having the same investment banker for 15 years.
Hey, Michael, I think you have an open microphone on your side causing some feedback. If you could mute your sides on the video conference and the other side, Michael. Thank you.
Did it stop?
Yep,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, it was actually a little piece of paper covered a little portion of the microphone. It was amazing. So, you know, what's your attitude on something like that, John?
Well, the process of going out to RFP has been periodic, and the 5-year period, I think, was determined to give some stability to the fund. I wasn't I'm not sure how many bidders were part of any of the prior RFPs, so maybe better.
Why don't you bring it, when does this expire?
At the end of 2020, I believe.
So when will we be going out for RFP again?
I believe it would be next year.
Mid-2020.
Yes.
So
I think we need some more information on this. Why don't you bring this back in January with some more detailed information as it relates to this item?
Okay,
Okay?
for sure.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
could I
thank you.
just ask if there's any legal requirement or any submittal requirements on this?
For this item, it's a requirement to approve the annual report.
But does it have to be now?
It doesn't have to be now.
Thanks.
You can hold on to
Yes, we
it.
will.
And I'm Dr. Burke's.
Okay. Then we'll put this item over until January. So 13 and 14 are just written reports. 15,
do have
is
a-
there any other business?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we do have
Yes.
a public comment on item 14 from Harvey Etter.
Oh, okay. Mr. Eder, on 14?
Good morning. My name's Harvey Eder. I'm talking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition and for the vast majority of people that want to see equitable, just solar transition ASAP to deal with our air emissions problems and climate change. The local governments and small business assistance groups got a lot of potential to do other things. Small business, they work with the PERC laundries. This should set a precedent for helping out with solar and solar businesses, especially for disadvantaged communities. We're trying to work up a system of setting up these kinds of businesses with co-ops and partnerships and whatnot with the trucks and whatnot. I've been talking to you folks for several years about it, electric vehicles, and the housing transportation trade-off. Also, SCAG says, I was at a meeting earlier this week of the council at Santa Monica. They got to build 9,000 low-income houses in the next 10 years. SCAG says 14,000. There's by 29, SCAG says 1.34 million. Okay, at $1 million a unit, that's $1.3 trillion plus the cost of money. You're talking some real money there. Okay, there is a homeownership program through Section 8 that's been around 20 years, and they've been hiding the ball on that. In the crash 10 years ago, property went down to 10, 20, 30 cents of the dollar. We could address a large part of this homeless, low-income housing problem in that transition. It was not done. They're playing hide the ball now. The county's got a program. I talked to Ansel a month ago. He didn't even know the county had a homeownership program. They're only doing it with rental. It's got several $billion. The city's got a program. They had it on. They had it off. They're reevaluating it. Stuff's got to be done. Okay. The future of industrial utilities is in play. It's changing. Second time PG&E is going bankrupt. There's 22 cities and counties, mostly from the Valley area, including Santa Cruz, which is based for me at UC and Berkeley. And they've signed that, led by Mayor San Jose, 5 million customers, a third of their base, encouraged by the government for local solar co-ops, which we started in Santa Cruz in the mid-70s, and with the state. So this is all in play. It has to be reviewed by the bankruptcy court and all this. And things are happening. They're happening quickly. And it has to be part of the Solar New Deal and evaluated as was required by law by the district, CARB, and EPA, and which I'll address in public comments pretty soon. Thank you.
Dr. Burke, Harvey's also going to.
Thank you very much.
Comment.
That's it? That's all the speakers cards we have, Mr. Benoit?
For item number 14, I do have another comment card for public comment from Harvey.
Okay. Then we'll consider, we don't need a motion on 13 and 14. Any other matters before the admin committee meeting? I hear none of those, so we're back to public comment. We're back to Mr. Etter.
Hello there, I'm Harvey Etter. I'm ditto on my other comments and incorporating by reference other contacts and comments for the last several years of the district. Okay, we got run out of federal appellate court in San Francisco, 95 7th Street, last Monday. Brought it up to the board, was told to deal with Mr. Gilchrist, and it's not satisfactory. Got an email from him day before yesterday, basically what he said, and I hung up on him Thursday before the board meeting, that it's up to the feds to decide this, whether they're going to go ahead and implement law, and then our option would be to sue based on the limited record, and so that's not satisfactory. Okay, we're asking for stipulation. We're asking for an outrage declaration signed by this board, and also to be signed by CARB and EPA. They're playing hide the ball, obfuscation, bad faith negotiations. I tried to get the counterpart from federal EPA and did not get that from Bay. I asked for also from CARB. It's like beat my head against the wall. You know, I'm trying to negotiate here and cannot get basic information. This is outrageous. It's what happened up in San Francisco under color of authority and threat of imprisonment, to be denied basic rights, to file a lawsuit to challenge the government and stop this process, writ a mandate that they shall evaluate justly, etc., the Solar New Deal, local, state, and federal, and for cost effectiveness based on the Department of Energy Sunshot Program, which is modeled after the moonshot, which put us to the moon in the space race. This stuff's cost effective now. It has been, also using European figures and what the Chinese are doing. This is outrageous, and it's backsliding. Going back 20, 30, 40 years, we had this stuff in there. I was called a solar warrior by Chief of Staff of Cal CEO, who came down here. We had hearings about pool manufacturers. They said it was going to cost. They couldn't put in pools because they had to put in solar. All this garbage. They never made rules. It was throughout these programs. That's backsliding. It's against the law. Also whistleblowing. The real climate numbers, and there's been a 30% increase in 10.2. Aaron Katzenstein of the climate. The number, there's 30% increase in methane in the last 12 years, and that the real numbers are not 450, but at least 900. It's based, methane is based on a 20-year, because the last 12 and a half years, there's 86 times global warming potential instead of 20-year, which is a district unit based on 100 years. And there's other things. Radiative forcing is not for methane, 0.48 is 0.16, a 27% increase, and there's other variables that also make it worse, plus nitrous oxide. And we've got to have an attitude of a willingness to evaluate this by the district, and like a response.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there any other public comment, CC8?
None here.
And there's none here. Is there any at your location, Mr. Caccioti?
Not here, but I have a comment in number 15.
Oh, okay.
So another business, this just goes back to the last board meeting where, regarding the MSRC's $20 million to Riverside and San Bernardino for the warehouses, distribution centers. If we could maybe put on a future agenda, just some money, if we can pull maybe from civil penalties or something. The reason is last night I was going to a meeting. I took the train to Baldwin Park, and I was going to a meeting in Irwindale, about a 4-mile bike ride at night. As I rode the bike, and I went through a number of areas in the board of Baldwin Park and Irwindale, there was huge industrial business parks, and I just saw several with hundreds of large 18-wheeler, heavy-duty trucks, you know, just FedEx. A couple almost hit me. There was no sidewalk. But it was just, as I realized, as I mentioned before that huge development in San Bernardino and Riverside, everybody, in the 90s and stuff like that, and prior to 2007 when we got the iPhone, there was a huge warehouses, logistical centers, distribution centers in the San Gabriel Valley, 605 East, when there used to be open space. So I think maybe a few $1 million or something, if we can find Dr. Burke, would be great. Because, again, I have a lot of distribution centers in the eastern part of my district.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think that maybe you and Mr. Nastri ought to get together and try and figure out where we could find a few dollars to do that.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none,
I
we'll
want to say one thing.
adjourn.
I went to ACLU on Monday.
Harvey, we already have public comment.
Okay, I just wanted to add to that before we shut it off.
I'd like to adjourn this meeting until January 17th, 2020, and wish everybody a happy holiday season and drive safely. I'll see you in 2020.
Thanks, Dr. Burke.
Thank you, Dr.
Same
Burke.
to you.
Thank you.